Tuesday, July 12th, 2022. Today on the Daily Review, we discuss Indian cinema film from 2010 named Udaan. Today with your host, me, Professor Joe LaRocca. I also saw it pronounced Udaan and Udaan, but I think it's Udaan, at least the English pronunciation of that Hindi word from the research I did, and I watched a review. I did everything I needed to do. Okay, this is we're just gonna call the director Vikram. We'll just cut our losses there. I know it's his first name. His last name is Matawane, maybe, but I can't do his full first name probably correctly. I might have done the last name correctly. Anyway, this is his debut film. He did a short before this, but this is feature film debut, and my goodness, what a debut of a feature film! It is here. Let me give you the precise synopsis, which is what I'm going to start doing, I think, because it just makes everything easier. Upon returning from his industrial hometown, a 16-year-old young man must decide whether to follow his own dreams or acquiesce to his father's cut plans for the future. So yeah, he's a kid. He's at a boarding school. He's been there for 8 years, so he's like grown up in the boarding school, and he gets into hijinks with his 3 other friends. You know, they go out and see kind of a scandalous, nudie film, and they see one of their teachers in there, and they get caught, and they get thrown out of school because it's not exactly their first offense or anything. But he doesn't care. That's fine. That's not the path he wants anyway. He wants to be a writer. And so he moves back to his hometown. He actually lives in his house is very nice and everything, but his father is like incredibly savage, we'll say. He's very, very controlling and dictatorial, and he's an alcoholic, and he's a broken man. And when a broken man is trying to raise you, it ain't good, right? He starts pushing the brokenness onto you. The cracks are inherited, right? So we start seeing that, and he also has a younger brother, maybe the most adorable little kid in a movie ever, and actually looks a little bit, because he's got these big eyes, he looks a little bit like my buddy's son. And so I was just thinking, oh, he's got to watch this, because it looks like his little son, Caleb. Yeah, and he never met him, so he's got a new, like, 6-year-old stepbrother named Arju, and Arju. And he can see where he's following the same path, or he's like, oh man, this kid's going to end up just like me in the same situation or whatever. And it's about breaking that kind of cycle of pain and punishment, and it's a coming-of-age story, and it's about growing up, and there's great parallels. The mustached man, right? There's all these mustached men, you know, as the enemy, and it's like it's his father, and you see, it's great. And then he's got an Uncle Jimmy. I love when they just have a name I can say. Uncle Jimmy. Like, I could have an Uncle Jimmy, you know? Will depend on how I marry. I could have an Uncle Anurag, too, or whatever, or Vikram, or Ranjiv, or something. Anyway, so Uncle Jimmy is kind of the opposite of the father. He kind of turned out a little bit differently, more relaxed, and he can't have children, and so it kind of takes him under his wing a little bit, and there's a lot of great stuff between those guys. And, the father wants Rohan, that's the main character, to learn engineering and work in his factory. And Rohan wants to be an artist, you know. And I thought there's so many little great moments that are really smartly told that they don't spend any time, like, emphasizing. It's just little things. Like, early in the movie, whenever they get to the car, he lets Arju sit in the front seat because he doesn't want to sit up front with his father. He'd rather sit in the back. And it's usually the other way around. In America, you go shotgun, and then you get to ride side, passenger. And that's a cool thing to do. But he just, like, so despises his father. He'd rather sit in the back seat. And so, I mean, his father does threaten to slit his throat. And that's when I was like, okay, we're at some next level stuff. This isn't just like, be good at school, you know? It's like, I will fucking murder you. It's like, oh, geez. I love that he finds a new group of friends and they're like basically identical. Like it's just three more knuckleheads and one they call Fatso. But they're good friends and stuff and they get along and they're good to each other. But it's funny how he starts falling. You go, oh, I see what happens. He falls into the same thing. And that's why this movie reminded me a bit of Good Will Hunting, because it's like a kid who is stuck in a situation where he's surrounded by basically ignorance. Like even his friends don't fully, some of them support him, one specifically teaches him how to like stand up to his father, but they're kind of at a different level, we'll say, and he's got something special about him, and his friends just kind of want him to get out, and he's got to deal with this troubled family life, you know what I mean? And it's got a kind of a similar ending. So yeah, that would be the movie I'd compare it to the most. It's got beautiful sound design, really like well thought, and then we always talk about Misonsen, which is just like what you put is a French term for like to place within the frame, and it just means that like just to oversimplify it, it's just everything that you put in the frame matters because it tells part of the story, So there were so many shots. There's this great shot where the father is in profile in the car, and in the foreground there's barbed wire, and you're just like, yeah, perfect. We could take that one frame and be like, this says everything about the character, and you would instantly be like, oh, okay, yeah, he's not a very open man. He's a hard man, And then there's like a like I don't know. There's so many good ones where like Ron's in the background and like this thing that's at the engineering plant that like pounds steel will be in the foreground, and you're like, oh yeah, he's getting like pounded into submission here. And then the third one that came to mind is that they're on there's like two benches side by side, and we got a shot behind them, and it's the uncle and Ron and Arjun and the father, and you go, oh, you can see how they're splitting, and one kid is kind of going one way. It's just very, very smart visual filmmaking. That the kid was pretty good, our main character. I think the ending could have been more subtle, and they could have gotten out of the story a bit sooner. About 5 minutes or so before, or 10, it's not a huge thing, but 5 or 10 minutes before the ending, I was like, okay, we got it. Let's gracefully bow out before we have a scene where we explain everything. And that kind of happens and makes the ending like pretty cheesy and kind of leaves me on a note that I don't really like. Not because it's a positive ending, because it's not even 100% it's pretty 100% positive, but it just seems a little bit not that it's impossible either, not that it's not something that could happen in the movie. It just felt a little bit overdone. You could have done it in a little bit more subtle way, for my own personal opinion. But in terms of a coming of age movie that you could show to like any age group, I think it's really, really, really solid. I personally, this is the type of movie I really like, but I had trouble connecting with some of it. Yeah, but I think it's really good, and I definitely recommend you check it out if you have Netflix, because it's just there on Netflix. I'm really kind of struggling to decide between grades here, between a B and a B plus, and I think I'm gonna give it a B. It's a very, very, very good B, and it may be a B plus if I were to watch it again. But I'm just trying to think, like, all right, let's say this was an English movie, movie made, or I should say a movie made in America, and that ending would have bothered me a lot, and because that's the thing. So there's a thing, it's harder to grade foreign films, not just Indian films, but any foreign film, because there's always like this little, I always feel like there's a half a grade where I'm like, maybe I didn't get it because there's a cultural thing, which is totally possible, or maybe I didn't fully appreciate. And also, giving a movie a grade after only watching it once is really stupid, but people seem to like having a grade on their reviews, even though if you look back, the first 2 years I didn't do grades, because I was like, this is meaningless. I'd rather just have a chat about it. But people seem to like the grades, and I'm a professor, so I got to send the grades out, right? So yes, I like it. I would watch it. You can like and subscribe if you like to subscribe. Where's the little icon? There it is. Yeah. Hey, look, it's see-through now. Hey, and that other dog you saw for a second was Lucia. That's my mom's dog. Let's see if we can get her on camera. Hey, Lucia. Oh, we're too plugged in. Oh, well, tomorrow. You'll see her tomorrow. She was on the bed there for a second. My mom's dog is like a little Hbomax. She'll be with me for a few days. All right, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Thank you very much for watching. Leave some recommendations and stuff. I got obviously a list of Indian cinema films to get through that's like longer than my ball bag, but I will get through those, and maybe a really current one, maybe one that's in the theater, because I can go see those. I have a good theater near me that has all the new releases. So if there's one of those that you guys can recommend that you think will be enjoyable for me and also good for the channel, because this is a building summer. Okay, talk to you later. Hey, there's Odie. You're all front and center now, Odie. Are you a little jealous that Lucia's here? No, you don't give a crap? All right, cool. Why don't you just lick your fingers? All right. I guess I have to look this way to make it look like I'm looking at her. Why do I have this reversed? I can't remember. I think it was better for the Misonsen. Misonsen. Whatever. It's a good movie in the tradition of every good movie. It's decent. Huh? Was that a Model T?